Bather by German artist Karl Schmidt-Rottluff was painted during a trip to Nydia. It was typical for artists like Schmidt-Rottluff and a group of German expressionists who called themselves Die Bruch, aka The Bridge, to take these trips as part of their avant-garde artistic identity, or at least to find it. In this particular painting, there is very little to tell of the location, but we can assume, based on the rustic warm color palette, that it is possibly a beach, or at the very least somewhere during the summer. We also have a sparsity of plant life, which can also indicate a beach of sorts. In this painting, we become well aware of the male gaze as we watch the subjects uncomfortably while they lounge and or possibly bathe. The painting has an abundance of what seems like unaware nudity, and based on the angle of the painting, you have a sense of dominance from the viewer. The women are either unaware or are used to being watched by artists who come to find themselves. Karl Schmidt-Rottluff was labeled a degenerate by the Nazi regime. This isn't surprising since it isn't only a painting filled with nudity, but nudity of black and brown people. With this information, we can look at this painting as a door to expose others to the beauty that black and brown women have to offer, and that they can indeed be muses. Although a wonderful opportunity, it doesn't remove the fact that no matter how you look at it, the painting is hypersexualized. Seeing this painting in person made me feel extremely inappropriate, and not because of the nudity, but because I felt like I was watching women without their permission. In a way, it felt like a slice of life, as if it was just a hot day at the water and this is just what we do. But the fact that the artist made sure not to have any of his subjects aware of his presence by looking up at the viewer makes me feel that they maybe didn't know he was there or didn't care, because to men from European countries, they are lions at the zoo. There's also something interesting about the fact that Karl placed the woman on all fours, dead center of the painting. It felt intentionally promiscuous. This also happens to be the only painting like it that Karl has made based on what I could dig up, which makes me think that even he felt like he crossed the line. Being German and being labeled a degenerate by the Nazi regime also tells me that culturally Karl didn't care to stay in line, that he wanted to break the rules as an artist and didn't mind blending art styles, which ultimately resulted in his acceptance by collectors and museums. Leda by Otto, a sought-after portraitist who is usually associated with German Expressionism, spent 4 years in service in World War I as a German artillery gunner. He was a witness to the brutalities of war, such as senseless violence, destruction, and death. After sifting through his paintings, you can clearly see that he used his experience at war. In the painting, Leda, you are met with an intense image, one that is clearly meant to be grotesque and in-your-face brutal. The image is of a woman being either raped or brutally hurt by a large white swan in what seems to be a jungle or very lush terrain. Her breasts are bare and her eyes wide with fear and anguish. The piece freezes you with its intensity. You wonder, how could something so beautiful like a swan be so evil? But isn't that the point? The swan is white and large, glorious even, and Leda is at its mercy. What caught my attention almost instantly wasn't just a large bird, but the teeth on Leda. The fear and anguish compelled me to take a closer look and feel the power the swan was imposing. Being a Marine, I know this image too well. Often in war, the masses only see the righteousness in their glory. What they fail to unveil is the true crimes of war, the ones people can't write home about. The atrocities that are very rarely seen and swept under a rug to never be cleaned or polished, simply forgotten. Otto brings all of this to light, center stages it at that. I don't think he held anything back while painting this. All of his pain is right there on that canvas. Fighting on both the Western and Eastern fronts, he saw some things that others may have been okay with, and he had something to say about it, and he did just that. When the Nazis came into power in 1933, approximately 260 of his works were confiscated by the Nazi propaganda ministry. His career was directly in the firing line of the Nazi regime. They considered his work inappropriate and unpatriotic. He was also dismissed from his teachings at Dresden Academy, all because he had committed a, quote, violation of the moral sensibilities and subversion of the militant spirit of the German people. After World War I, Dix leaned towards social satire. His paintings became grotesque and exaggerated. He became part of the new objectivity movement that portrayed the social and political realities of the Weimar Republic. Leda doesn't disappoint in this regard. Overall, the painting is sadly beautiful and impactful. Everything in this painting screams war, and it's perfect even though the meaning is truly ugly and painful. In person, the colors jump off the canvas, really capturing this moment of horror and interest. What starts as bright and colorful transitions into darkness and terror as the image burns its way into your memory, proving that Otto Dix is really one of the great artists of his time.